Now, to understand our position as human beings, we first have to understand the story of a creation that was created before human beings. Now, this would be the jinn. Okay? So I'm going to relate a story from Hassan al-Basri, rahimahullah, that tells about the creation of the jinn and the Iblis and how this whole concept goes into Adam. Because I had concepts of this from Christianity and Judaism when I was a Christian. But there was something that was wrong. For example, they said that Iblis was a fallen angel. Now we know in Islam that Iblis was not an angel. He belonged to a different race called the jinn, which I'll go into that a little bit. Now, also one of the greatest things about Islam is that the words actually give you their linguistic meaning. For example, Adam comes from the Aramaic word meaning Adamu. Adamu means made of red clay. It gives what his form is. His name wasn't Adam, but it was what he was made of. Just like if I give you the word Jahannam, what does Jahannam mean? Fire, burning bright, right? So the word jinn shares a derivative of this. This is a fire that was free of smoke. And so this is where that derivative came from. And so we'll give the story of Iblis, inshallah. Now, Iblis, first we have to understand where jinn were created from. Allah Ta'ala, He created a fire called Samum. Now, from this, He created the jinn. Now, the jinn were made before human beings, and they lived right here on this dunya, on this earth. They were just like us. They had families, they had friends, they worshipped Allah Ta'ala. And the first jinn that Allah Ta'ala created, his name was Marij. And so He created his wife for him in the same manner that He created Adam's wife for him. He took a part of the jinn, Marij, and made his wife Marija. Now, they conceived a son, and they named him Jinn. Now, like I said before, the word jinn comes from what he was made of. Just like a lot of times we might give our kids names and stuff because of their characteristics and things like that. This is normal. So, this son, Jinn, would give birth to all of the clans of the jinn that would come to be, and eventually would give birth to the jinn named Iblis. Now, he wasn't originally called Iblis. His name was Azazel, and he was known among the jinns as Azazel. And if you go look into the books of Christianity and Judaism, you will find him named as Azazel in their books also. But they say he was an angel. So there's some discrepancies on how they've taken the story. Now, Allah Ta'ala, He gave the earth as a dwelling place for all of the jinn. In fact, they were the first Khalifa of this dunya, the first protectors of this dunya. And they worshipped Allah Ta'ala very much so. They were mutakun, they were very pious. And Allah Ta'ala was very pleased with them. And the angels, they became amazed at the way that they were, because the angels were not like the jinn. They didn't have free will. They were only created for a purpose of doing what Allah Ta'ala taught them to do. Outside of that realm, they couldn't go outside of that realm. So when they saw the jinn was something that had a choice to choose and they were still worshipping Allah Ta'ala, they were amazed by this. And so they asked Allah Ta'ala, He said, can you raise some of them up with us so we can learn from them? Allah Ta'ala said, no problem. So He went to the best among the jinn people at this time, which was Azazel. And He said, Azazel, I want you to come and live with the angels. So he said, of course, anything you wish. He was submitted to Allah Ta'ala. So Allah Ta'ala, He raised him among the angels. And he worshipped in the heavens, and he worshipped in the earth, so much so that Allah Ta'ala was very pleased with Azazel, that He changed his name to Iblis. And that's where his name came to, Iblis. Now, over a period of time, the jinn started to get nifaq, hypocrisy. And they started getting into clan wars, fighting with one another, over differences among themselves. And they started to kill one another. Now, many of them stopped worshipping Allah Ta'ala and started worshipping other things. They started following their own desires. So, Allah Ta'ala got a complaint from the earth, the dunya, said, listen, are you going to leave a creation on our backs that is going to disbelieve in you and sit there and create all of this mischief? Allah Ta'ala told the earth, He said, be patient, give it time. So So Allah Ta'ala, He sent over 800 messengers to the jinn. Prophets, Anbiya, whatever you want to call them. Every single one of them, the jinn killed. They killed them all. Sounds like the same story of human beings repeating over, right? Because it is. We have a lot to learn from this story. Now, finally, Allah Ta'ala, He goes to Azazel, Iblis. He says, listen, I want you to go back to the earth, and I want you to fight the disbelieving jinn. So, Iblis, he submitted to Allah Ta'ala. He said, your wish is my command. I will go back and I will fight them. Allah Ta'ala sent 70,000 angels to go and fight with Iblis against the disbelieving jinn. And He annihilated them. He wiped them out. It was like Noah in the flood. There wasn't a disbeliever left on this planet. Only those that worshipped Allah Ta'ala and those people, those jinn. Now, after that, Allah Ta'ala, He was pleased with Iblis. So He raised him back to Jannah as a reward. Now, he went to the first heaven, and according to one narration, he worshipped so much in the first heaven that Allah Ta'ala allowed him to transgress all the way through 7 levels of heaven. Hassan al-Basri, he states that Iblis worshipped above the 7 heavens for more than 70,000 years, until he was raised to a station called Ridwan. And it was called Ridwan because this was the angel that used to guard this gate. Now, no one goes through Jannah without going through the station of Ridwan. Now, Allah Ta'ala, He went ahead and He allowed Iblis to be the guardian of this gate for over 1,000 years. Allowed him to stand guard over it. So this was somebody that was high in esteem with Allah Ta'ala. He was taken above his creation, the other jinn, and he was placed with the angels. Now, one day, when he was guarding the gate, he looked upon the gate and he saw an inscription on the gate. The inscription above the gate said, there will be one who is well beloved among you. He is one of the best among you, who Allah Ta'ala favors more than the rest of them. And he will be disobedient to Allah Ta'ala, and he will turn against him, and he will become rejected and cursed. Now Iblis, he pondered upon this and said, كَيْفَ تَكْفَرُونَ بِاللَّهِ, how could anyone disobey Allah Ta'ala? How could anyone not believe in Allah Ta'ala after being mutakun, after being pious? How could that happen? So he made dua to Allah Ta'ala. He said, oh Allah, give me permission to curse this one. Allah Ta'ala said, granted is your dua. So for 1,000 years, Iblis, he cursed himself. He did not realize what he was doing. He was cursing his own self. Now, there's an important point in this. Because in one hadith it narrates that when Allah Ta'ala, when He created Nabi Adam, before He breathed into him of His divine spirit, He put him in a state of sleep in a cave up in the garden. Now, all of the angels, they were afraid to come near Nabi Adam, right? Because they didn't know what it was, right? The first time you see something new, you're like, hey, what is that? I don't know what it is, right? So you might be afraid, you might be apprehensive not to go near it. So the angels were this way. Now, Iblis, he looked at it and he said, look, it's different than the angels. There's holes going in and out of the body. So it needs something to fill in those holes to keep it going. And he saw that it was weak. So he went in and out of every orifice of Adam. Out of his nose, out of his eyes, out of his ears, out of his mouth, and out of his private body. He says, see, I told you, look how weak it is. And to this day, mankind gets led astray by what? Our eyes, our nose, our mouth, our ears, our weaknesses. Iblis knew, he saw the weakness in human beings, the frailty. Now, I relate that story because the important lesson there is that sometimes we have a problem in our ummah where we like to sit there and come to the masjid and pray our salat, do lots of zakat, and do all of these things and be mutakun, what we're supposed to do. Now, our little brother Muhammad, he's out in the street and he's drinking alcohol. Or our sister Khadija, she decides to take off the hijab and wear tight pants, right? So we like to go and say, did you see Muhammad today? Did you see Khadija today? Right? We like to point that out. Why we're pointing out their weaknesses, right? This is part of Iblis. This is what he was pointing out. And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he taught us that he asked his companions, he said, who are the bankrupt? His companions answered, Ya Rasulullah, they're the ones without any money. He laughed. He said, Kala, no. The bankrupt are those that come on the day of judgment. They have lots of salat. They have lots of fasting. They have lots of zakat. They have lots of good deeds. And Allah Ta'ala is going to make them as dust. So, you come to the masjid and you're praying salat. You're fasting. You're doing all of these good deeds. And because you're pointing out the faults and the mistakes of your brothers or sisters in Islam, Allah Ta'ala gives you the ajr for them being disobedient and takes the ajr that you get from doing all these good deeds and hands it to them. And it's not just Muslims, it happens with kuffar too. I had a little brother that I teach at one of the Dukeses and that. He was talking about one of his teachers in the class, and so I gave him one of these comments. I said, imagine you say about your teacher, man, she's got a big nose. And he started laughing. Because I know all the kids, they've done this before. I used to be there. I remember how it was. I said, so you go and you pray salat and you're saying all of this stuff, right? You're a good Muslim, right? And you just gave all of your ajr to a non-Muslim, someone who's not going to get any benefit in the hereafter. So we have to look what we're doing. Who are we working for? Are we working for ourselves or are we working for someone else? And truly, that's the bankrupt. I can't imagine working for 60 years, making $600,000, say over 60 years, for my retirement, time to go enjoy life, right? And then I go to the bank to go withdraw some money out of there and they said, oh, I'm sorry, we put it in Muhammad's account. Muhammad would be happy, right?